friends, I'm Liz.
I'm Robby. Welcome back to our channel, Bookworm Couple. Today we are going to be talking about the 5th book in the Wheel of Time series, The Fires of Heaven by Robert Jordan. So,
I can't believe I'm on book 5.
I know, you're on book 5.
I simultaneously feel like I just started the series and I'm on book 1,000,000.
I think that's a pretty common thing with Wheel of Time.
I've read thousands of pages
yes,
at this point.
Yes, you absolutely have, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, feels pretty good. Feels, honestly, you know what's funny? I had a thought the other day. I was like, oh my god, book 5. I'm like, so close to the end of the series. No, I'm not. Not even a little bit. Not even halfway, which kind of hurt me a little bit because I felt like I was like, oh, I'm trucking along. Because when we first talked about it and I first started reading, especially before really like I knew fully what I was getting into, it's like 14 books, whatever. And then I started them and I was like, 14 books, okay.
14 books.
Here we go.
Yeah, they're
14 long luxurious books.
Very much
so. I do feel like right now, I feel like I deserve to be halfway through.
Sure.
I'm not even halfway through. I
and
feel
then 15
like I'm like
if you count New Spring, which is the little prequel.
A prequel?
Yeah.
Who's it about?
Moraine and Lan.
Oh, that sounds lovely. I love Lan and Moraine. Think more Lan.
Yeah, so before we jump into like more specifics about the video,
talk about the books.
Do you have anything in general you want to say, spoiler free, before we dive right into all of the many, many things that happen in this book?
Well, there you go, spoiler free. So much happens.
Mm-hmm.
So much happens. So much happens. I felt like the book could have ended 3 different times. Like, so much happens. Which is crazy. But, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this book. I don't think it was as much of a page turner as the last 2 were for me.
Okay.
I loved it because the characters that surrounded around were my faves.
Surrounded around?
Surrounded around, yeah.
Okay.
Surrounded around.
Okay.
New phrase. Because we had to be with my girlies a lot. And
You did.
Loved that.
Mm-hmm.
It did feel slower.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if that was just the state I was in when I read it, because I came out of having reread 2 Crescent City books and then reading the new Crescent City book. So I came from like my favorite author, which is very fast paced, and then came into this and it did feel very slow. But overall, I enjoyed it.
Good.
Overall, I had a good time.
Great.
Wasn't my favorite, but again, I really loved the characters that I got to spend time with 100% of this book, which was great. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, good. Okay, well, I guess we'll jump into some more specifics then.
Okay.
So if you haven't read Fires of Heaven, what are you doing here?
Well,
How did you find this video?
Are we that entertaining?
Yeah.
I guess.
So we're going to be talking about some spoilers. So I guess to start off with, we may as well, you always say, like, I feel like I got to start with something big. So Moraine died.
Moraine dies?
And Lanfear.
Am suspicious. I'm suspicious. Because...
Why? Other than the fact that it's a fantasy book.
No, that's the 100%
Yeah,
reason I was like, Moraine died.
Yeah.
I do think the way that Robert Jordan writes, it's very interesting to me the things he focuses on, like the big moments that he focuses on, because it's not always the ones that I would think to focus on.
Do you have an example?
Oh, plenty. But specifically I'm thinking of this one, because so much of the big stuff happens off the page. And then there are other things, like in this book with Matt killing Couladin, who is the other Aiel general who says he's Dragon Reborn, whatever. We have this like leading up to it, and Matt's like, guess I gotta battle this guy. Classic Matt. And then
that's great. Matt
like,
is like
a
really
chapter later, it's like, yeah, there's his head right there, just on a pike. And I was like, I'm sorry, we missed that? Like, we didn't get to be there for that? That's like, so a lot of things I noticed happen off the page. And then also, like, with Moraine dying, it was, like, the very end of the chapter, and I don't know, and maybe it was just the style of writing that I'm used to when big things happen. It wasn't as, like, boom, 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 fast-paced. It was more like, it could be the languaging that I'm kind of, like, reading as softer. I don't know. So I think that's one reason, because even, like, we have a moment with Lan after... And he's kind of like scurrying towards it. And Rand is like, you can't do anything, she's dead. And he's like, yeah, you're right. I was like, what? Like, I felt like there would have been more emotion behind it. And I was looking for more emotion behind it. I do think Moraine's POV when she's like getting herself amped up to attack Lanfear was definitely like emotional. I could feel it a little bit. But I also, and this is the struggle that I had with this book, I had to reread a lot of the passages. A lot.
Sure.
I have noticed anytime there is action in these books, I get very lost. And I don't know if it's because I'm not reading between the lines well enough, or like there were quite a few moments that I got very lost in, including the one where Moiraine dies, because they essentially fall through a ter'angreal archway, I think. I must have missed earlier in the chapter that it was even there. Like, I didn't understand where that came from. And then I was also unconvinced that, like, everyone's like, oh, yep, they went through it and that means they're dead. I was like, who knows that? How do we know that?
Well, land doesn't feel the bond anymore.
That's fair. That is fair, and that's very sad. But I just think the action of it, I was very much like...
And from what I remember, like, once they go through, isn't it all, like, busted up and they can't use it anymore? Not that I don't know if anyone was volunteering to jump in. But...
It very well could have, and I could have misunderstood that.
I thought I
when I reread it, it was just like, it fell through the thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I got very confused.
Okay.
That's on me. I still don't believe she's dead. That is also very much coming
you're gonna be going until book 14, being like, I can't, I'm just waiting for Moiraine to come back.
Can't wait till she rolls up, and y'all are gonna laugh, even though you're not.
All these people who've already read the books are gonna be like, whoa, she was so right.
Or you're all playing a trick on me. It is fully because I read and watch too much fantasy and sci-fi, where like, you never did. Like, they all... Darth Maul's ruined it for us all. You know what I mean?
Totally normal.
Like, so I'm just like...
I do the same thing with other books.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a bummer.
And I guess it is also my disbelief in Moiraine being dead, because I don't read a lot of books with action-packed things. Like, if you've read any of the ACOTAR books, like fantasy, there's definitely battles and things, and people get hurt and harmed, and it's sad. But I read a lot of authors who don't kill main characters.
Kill their characters.
And so I'm very much reading this being like, she'll be back.
You know that people kill. You know that other authors do that, though, right?
I do, but I have a hard time believing it.
Okay.
And again, I'm always of like, they're coming back. And I was right about Morghese. Morghese was not dead. Because so we had found out that I am at the end of the book also. I
jumped. I just wanted to jump in because you always say like, I feel like when we start the spoiler section, we should start with something really big. Yeah. And so we did, and we can work however you want to work. This is your show.
Yeah, I don't know that it is my show.
Yes, it absolutely is. You're the one who read the book for the first time. We want to know what your reaction and your thoughts are.
I guess we can talk about Morghese. So, this is the first time we got a Morghese POV chapter. Obsessed. I loved it. She's a character that I had wanted to know more about to begin with. And it was really interesting seeing her realize the spell she was under, which we then later find out it was Gabriel, was her lover, and technically a Forsaken, Ravine, disguised.
Yeah, I was wondering how that was pronounced. I kind of defer to you.
Because I listen to the audiobooks,
and I'm just like, I thought it was Raven.
So there are some pronunciations that are different, because I listened to the Rosamund Pike narrations for the first three, and then these ones, there are some pronunciations, like they say Tarvalin, and she says Tarvalon. There are a few... I
like Tarvalon better.
Yeah, I like Tarvalon. There are a few other ones, so it could be updated.
Interesting. Well, whatever. Who cares? I'm still going to just go with whatever you say.
Ravine. But anyways, this was the Queen's lover who, like, it was kind of I kind of got through context because I was like, this is a bad guy. Obviously, we find out, Matt finds out either in the last book or the book prior that he's coming after Elaine. He's coming after the crown.
Yeah.
But even before that, and there's a lot of things like kind of with him and Morghese, I was like, oh,
well, yeah, he's always shady.
Yeah, he's very shady. But it was very interesting getting it from Morghese's point of view and realizing, like, her slowly realizing through her own mind, and then also trusted people of hers, Linny. Love Linny. Linny is the
true hero
chick.
Of this storyline.
Linny
I love Linny. She's
the
great.
Sassiest. I have some great Linny quotes that I took down. I don't know that I'll be able to find them at a quick, but she's great. So it was really interesting to see Morghese being like, okay, these feelings have been wrong. Something is wrong. Something is happening. Like, she didn't realize, like, how she would get to a room, or like how she ended up in Gabriel's room, and why she always wanted to be near him. Like, she always felt like she needed him. Yeah. Even though she very much so, and especially getting this from her POV, is like, wants the best for her people, like wants to be a very good ruler and cares very, very much, would find herself being very submissive to this person that she was around. And we later find out that he was using compulsion on her, which I was like, oh, a vampire? Great. Hence Liz reading too many fantasy books. I was like, oh, he's a vampire? Got it, because they use compulsion.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed having that. I literally put, ew, Gabriel sucks. And this was my third note. So like I didn't really have it at the very beginning. I was like, he sucks.
He's the worst.
Literally, and Morghese, you're better than that. And then we got a lot of time with her and to see the people, the like little crew she brings together that are loyal to her.
Yes.
But also with, there's one of them who's the guy who owns the inn, and I'm forgetting his name. But she like flees and like, and he's basically like loyal to the crown.
Yeah.
But is like, girl, what have you been doing? He's like, I know. He's like, I'm loyal to you, but like, you've made a mess. You've made an absolute mess. And it's kind of interesting seeing like the people that she's aligned herself with are the people that are going to give it to her straight.
Yeah, for sure.
And as like, you know, a queen, probably not language she gets thrown at her quite often. And so it was just very lovely. And I have a lot of interest and respect for the character. And I'm really glad that we circled back at the end to find out she did not die.
She did not die.
And because that was Rand was given a note to say that she had been killed and Robby had taken over. But she did not.
It was a trap.
It was a trap! I have multiple new favorite characters.
Oh,
as in, like,
multiple.
They've kind of shifted. Lenny,
obviously.
God bless Lenny.
Yeah,
Lenny,
we love Lenny.
the best.
The best.
Always trying to, like, either sass Morghese or be like, hey, you know, go get some. With, like, the men around her, which is great. Avienda has very much gone to like the top of my list as favorite character. I adore her, and her relationship with Rand has made me like Rand.
All right. Well, I guess we'll take it.
There it is. He's not my favorite character, but their dynamic I find really fun and realistic in a sense that they balance each other in a very good way. Where, like, both of them are very obviously attracted to the other and care about the other, no matter the cost, because they both hate each other.
Of course.
And so they're coming from this like, disdain, you know, this feeling of disdain, which I don't think Rand had as much for her, where she was convincing herself that
a lot of hate
she
sex.
had for him.
So much hate sex.
Only one hate sex. We only hit one. Also, they have sex. That was fun. AKA, nothing... It happened off the page. Classic. I knew that. I wasn't expecting.
But you were slightly disappointed.
I was slightly disappointed.
Sure.
I knew it would not be there.
I think it's funny that Lanfear came back because she's so jealous.
She was so jealous and just started blowing things up.
Yeah,
like full on just blowing things up.
Yeah.
She wasn't even a woman scorned. She was a woman brat. Just a full brat.
Yes. Well,
and she died because of it.
There it goes.
Woof. I actually kind of like Lanfear. Not like admire her, but I
as far as the other Forsaken go.
As far as the other Forsaken go, Avienda also has some great one-liners as well. Like
what?
Like this was I wrote this one down. I don't remember. She called someone a milk-hearted wetlander.
She really likes calling people milk something.
There is a lot of milk references. I guess you kind of get it of like milky, like kind of wishy-washy.
No, I
get.
Like, I mean, lame. It makes sense. It's just like I know it's. You said another line about someone being like a milk-skinned something.
Yeah, a wench or something.
What's going on with all the milk?
I enjoy, I don't know. So Avienda, top tier. Absolutely top tier. We got to spend a lot of time with Nynaeve in this book.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed as well because I find her interesting. Definitely a slightly infuriating character because she cannot get over herself. But I do think that, well, specifically her and Rand, but the Emmonsfield kids in general too, but mostly her and Rand are kind of these like pompous brats.
They're
for
so
absolutely
confident.
No reason. So confident. Like in the last book when she's like killed Moghedien. Like that was hard. Yeah. And then this book, it was interesting to see kind of her flip because she was battling with her frustration that she was afraid. Because she had been, again, attacked by Moghedien in the Teleran Riod, and it really struck her emotionally. Obviously, she got out of it.
Sure.
thanks to Brigitte, who I love.
I love that sequence too, where she where she jumps out of the, she knocks her out of the dream world, and then Elaine makes her warder, and I was just like, whoa, this is crazy. I did not expect
that was also dope, and I really like that we now obviously get more of Brigitte. Brigitte. They say it two different ways.
Oh, I thought it was Brigitte.
Brigitte. There's a T. There's definitely a T.
Okay, great.
I love her. I'm glad. I was really excited that we had her in the living world after that, because there's a battle between, Nynaeve and Elaine have both been conversing with Brigitte in the dream world.
Yes.
And kind of like secretly, she's been telling them a lot about like how the Heroes of the Horn work, and like how they're reborn into the world and everything, and also the powers of Teleran Riod, which, again, another reason I love this book. I find the Dreamland so cool and so fascinating. It is very much turned into a cell phone between the kiddos. So, yes. Nynaeve and Elaine use it to talk to Egwene, and I do think it's very funny that that's the excuse to be able to communicate with one another, literally across the continent.
Yes.
But I do like it anyways, and Elaine and Nynaeve spend so much time in the dream world learning it, and Brigitte helps them with that, and there is, like, Nynaeve has the sphere of Moghedien, but it's very, very low. And then once she attacks her, and Brigitte saves her, and then also Moghedien essentially destroys Brigitte, sends her to the real world. Yeah. And to save her, Elaine makes her warder, which is really cool. And she instantly is like, got it. Like, she is me, I'm her warder, I will protect her at all costs. Nynaeve, don't be a mess.
But Nynaeve is always a mess.
Well, and it was interesting. This was the first time we really got which is always what I'm looking for, that really emotional journey of, like, Nynaeve is overconfident, can be a very frustrating character to read because she's always right.
Absolutely.
And she's always yelling at people and always taking things into her own hands, not listening to anyone else. And this book, we got much deeper into her journey of, like, her fear, even down to her journey as a wilder, having figured out how to channel without knowing how to channel, and how that caused her to have the block of only being able to channel when she was angry.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really interesting take on that, and then to get little bits and pieces, and then as the book goes on, we get more of, like, her admitting to herself that she's so tired of being afraid, and even to a point where she gets Egwene threatens her at one point to, like, behave, essentially. And she's, like, 4 chapters is like, I don't want to see Egwene, but I can't let her talk to me like that. But, like, but she's, like, scared of her because she's, in general, just so scared and not used to allowing herself to feel that emotion. She's feeling frustrated and all of the things. And in the end, like, literally when she admits, I'm so tired of being afraid, is when Moghedien comes at her again.
Yes.
And they have another big battle, and it's awesome. But I liked having so much time with Nynaeve and, like, really getting into the nitty-gritty of that. And I wrote down in my notes, because Nynaeve is always angry, she has to be angry to channel. I was like, Nynaeve, got it, Hulk situation. I'm always angry.
I'm always angry.
Which she kind of does say that in the end of the book, where she's like, I guess I could always just be angry, but I don't know if I would have control. And I was like, sure. I got you. I did it.
Figured it out.
I figured it out.
I always really like the circus bit of that. I love Vale and Luca.
That they're in a
I think
circus.
Luca is so funny.
See, he frustrated
Characters like that are always my favorites in books. I think they're so stupid and over the top, and, like, no one like that exists, but they always make me laugh.
He was great. I didn't really feel anything about him until they start to leave, and he, like, proposes to Nynaeve.
Yeah, it's great.
And there's so much cape swishing. Like, he's always, like, flourishing his cape dramatically, and I love that.
Yeah, and it's such a wonderful counterpoint to Nynaeve's total 100%. Disdain, but also she does kind of like it. But, like, she won't allow herself to admit it. It's because she's, like, thinking about, like, well, Lan would do this, but also Lan never gave me flowers.
Yes.
I just think all of it's very, very funny. And it's also, you spend so much of the book with Nynaeve and being frustrated with her because you're in her head and it's the most frustrating place in the world to be. And then have someone, like, be wildly in love with her.
Yeah.
Or at least
and also, like, love that she's angry. He's like,
exactly.
What a
that's
saucy,
why
sexy
and
woman.
that's why he, because of the chase. Oh, man,
and then he flourishes his cape.
A lot of flourishing.
So much flourish. Obviously, Nynaeve is with Elaine. Love Elaine. Still love Elaine. I think that Elaine... It took me a minute to understand that Elaine, in the beginning of this book, was trying to flirt with Tom.
Yeah, I remember that plot line being like, this is weird.
Well, I didn't get it until...
Like, he could maybe be
Nynaeve.
your daddy. So like...
Well, and he was also supposed to be older than Marquise as well.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, at least he has a history of dating younger women.
Oh, I'm not... I truly am not mad about it.
Just...
But I just do... Like, it's not only is he a lot older than Elaine, but he was a lot older than her mother. So he's a lot older than Elaine.
He's like a grandpa.
He is, with his mustaches. And I honestly thought it was really funny because I was reading it, and it's just like, there's this series of Elaine just complimenting Tom in like a ridiculous way. It's like, oh, that was so great how you moved the horses that way. Oh, look at how your hand, like, you just did that in such a strong way. And I was like, what's happening? And then Nynaeve was like, stop flirting with him. I was like, that was her trying to flirt?
Yeah.
Didn't nail it.
Yeah.
But it was very funny. And it was another emotional moment where Elaine was kind of dealing with the fact that she loves Rand, but she's also kind of just like decided that like her and Rand are an item, and Rand's not there. Rand is not there. And so she, as I think many young women will do, is like, oh, what if he's with another woman? And which I mean, whoopsie doozle.
And your friend.
Your friend, who's supposed to be protecting him for you.
I mean, but depends on your definition of protecting, I suppose.
Oh boy. But she very much is like very raw and emotional, and to the point of like, there's less of like jealousy of another person, but it is her being like, well, I should flirt with other people too, because he's obviously doing it, and she's kind of talking herself in circles, having not seen this man for a long time and having not had a response from him because she's written him multiple letters that have. Which I didn't really understand what was in the letters, because it was very clear. It was like, one was confessing her love for him, and the other one was like... Oh, yeah, I forgot about this bit. And I was confused by it, because every time a different character explained what it was, and I was like... So one, she's like, leave me alone, and the other one, she's like, I actually love you so much. Because she's trying to decide which one will make him more into her, yes. God bless. Oh, poor Elaine. I love her. Yep. She is such sass, and her and Nynaeve being the ones to like figure out the dream world is really fun, and also having so much time together, because they sort of start with a bit of disdain for one another, and definitely do have that like throughout, but have figured out a relationship between the two of them that is a really fun dynamic, because they're very different, and they've been like making their way across the country as much, joining circuses and doing all these things, and very much playing their opposites, where Nynaeve is like, give me this stuff, and Elaine is like, would it be nice? It would be so nice if you would give me this stuff, to people, like very much bringing out her like royalness to it, and Nynaeve is like, this is stupid. This girl's just spending money all the time, and she doesn't even know what money is, and just is like mad at everyone, and Elaine is like, hey. But it's also giving away all the money to all the money. People. Yes, and also starting a riot in the city, because she asked Galad and Massima, how do you say his name? Oh, he's annoying. Boat, and they both like basically got in a fight about it. Yeah, I don't love either of those characters. I mean, I don't think you're supposed to. No, you're not. Them. I thought Massimo was so annoying. It also was like, that was one of those moments in these books that I have quite often where I'm like, It's been a minute. But I remember Uno. I enjoy Uno so much. Uno's great. I love Uno. But then Massima has decided he's the prophet, and the prophet of the dragon, yes. And he has crazy, a lot of people. Got a lot of crazy culty vibes going with that, which is probably why I thought it was annoying. Yes. I mean, you're not supposed to like him. That's okay. Good. Well, nailed it. I will say, I'm taking it back to Galad. I do find his character decently interesting. He was one of my favorite characters on my first read of the series, just because I think that he is an interesting character in the way that he moves through the world, and his like choice to follow this set of strictures, regardless of the suffering it might bring to himself or others. I think that just makes for an interesting character. It's not the first time I've ever read anything like that, but it's executed very well, I think. Well, and also to kind of see, because of the way Elaine has kind of spoken about Galad from the very beginning, and then obviously in this book as well, I was very much holding Galad at arm's length, being like, this is obviously going to be a bad guy. But throughout, you even see they because he's now a White Cloak.
Yes.
That was the first moment I went, oh, in the books. I was like, oh, I did that at the end as well.
It's bad, but
I was like,
it makes perfect sense.
It does make perfect sense. Yeah. And it's interesting because all the conversations that they have with him, he's very level-headed and he's very one-note. He's not highly emotional.
Nope.
But he is very
logical.
Which again, I think makes him interesting, whereas I'm now looking at him of like, okay, he's not necessarily villainous. He is just...
But you don't need to be villainous to be a villain.
No, you truly don't. You truly don't. And it's interesting, the dynamic of that, and then also watching him, like, help them get out. Yeah. Like, because originally he's like, no, I'm taking you home to Mom. Like, this is it. Obviously, this is the right thing to do. And then through, random courses of actions, he gets them on a boat. And I thought that, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting him to come in raging, flailing, dragging them along. But... that is very much like you said, that person just like doing what they think is right, regardless no matter what
the consequences.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I do just find it interesting that he's not emotional. He's just not emotional at all, and that's what makes the character kind of interesting, because you could be like, oh, he's doing something bad, but in fact he's only truly just doing what he thinks is right.
Well, because he's looking at it like there was no choice anyway.
Right.
This is what he was going to do, because this is what he has to do, because this is the right thing to do, and he doesn't have a choice.
And apparently he's just stunning. Every time
I think that's
he's on the page,
he's just so gorgeous.
He's so hot.
It's
like,
very good.
Even Nynaeve multiple times is like, he's just really hot, and I don't know what to do about it.
It makes me laugh, because when I'm reading like Throne of Glass and some of the other books that you've given me, everyone is so hot.
Yeah,
like, they spend so much time talking about how everyone is so hot. And I'm like, if everyone's super hot, then like everyone is completely normal, just to be fair. But in this case, Galad is super hot and everyone else is totally normal. And I just think it's really funny.
And Nynaeve in the end also makes a comparison to him and Ravine. How she says, like, this is a beautiful man, almost as beautiful as Galad, but there's a darkness to him. Which I thought that was interesting again to like make. And also Nynaeve, who someone is like, convinces herself that's not important to her, but very much is a woman who's attracted to people, like, period. So for her to constantly bring it up is kind of fun. Yeah. In a way. We had a little bit of Leandrin in this book. I went from finding her character interesting to finding her character very one-note. But I find this is way jumping back. I find it very interesting that all of the books seem to start with like all the evil characters together. It's like one chapter, like 3 separate POVs of like the Forsaken, a bunch of dark friends, and then someone else, Pat and Fane, basically. And that's like the start of the book, which I do find kind of a struggle to start, because I'm like, I don't know, these are not my friends. Like, I don't necessarily want to know about them. Show me my friends first, like, let's get into the action of it, and then give me a little bit of that.
You've got to see, like, the evil machinations that are going on.
I don't care.
That will challenge your friends throughout the course of the novel.
I agreed. I don't want it immediately. Okay. It doesn't bring me into the book.
Sure. Okay.
Personally.
Yeah.
But I also I don't know that I'm reading for overall journey. I'm reading for emotional journey, I guess. I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say, but I do find that interesting. That being said, we get a smidge of Leandrin in this book, who's working essentially under Moghedien, because the Black Aja have figured out a little bit of the dream world.
Yes.
And that's a big part of the end of the last book with them and and there's so many different titles in this book, and I won't remember what it is. Anyways, doesn't matter. Leandrin is essentially working under Moghedien and like has this weird vibe of where she is so respectful of the Forsaken, like the people above her, like the Dark Lord and all that, sure. But then also is always kind of trying to overthrow them at the same time.
Yes, well.
And fails at it multiple times just randomly. Another thing that I had to reread was one of the chapters where I think she's stilled. I wasn't 100% sure. I got a little confused. Classic Liz. But she's like with Moghedien, and when she first meets her is like, I got this, I'm gonna destroy her. And then does not. And Moghedien like essentially slaps her in the face, metaphorically, sure. And physically probably too. And she's like, cool. Like, of course I will like bow to you. And then later on when we get with them again, she's like, now's the time. I'm gonna try it.
Now I'm gonna get her.
And I was unclear as to if she stilled her or something really intense happened. But we did get a deeper look into Leandrin as well, where basically she's always been evil. She was like, it was like from the time I was a kid, I knew I wanted to serve the dark. I was like, well, damn. Okay.
She's not great.
She's not great.
We don't like her.
But we didn't get a lot of her, so I wrote down the Emmonsfield boys would fall apart without the Emmonsfield women.
Oh, for sure.
And now Avienda and Elaine.
And they're stout to River's wool.
They are idiots. But in a lovely way.
Sometimes. Matt and Rand just bumbling around.
Matt always being annoyed.
Yeah.
By the fact...
Matt is like Robert Jordan was like fully discovered Matt at this point, and Matt is just like, I really don't want to be in this fight. Crap, now I'm like winning all these battles in this fight.
He's like, there's a point where... So this book went very slowly for me up until about the last quarter.
Sure.
And I also think it's interesting because there's a big battle... And then it keeps going for like a long time. And then more stuff happens. I was ready for like the big battle. It was very obvious that we were leading up to this battle with the Shido, Aiel, because Couladin is pretending he's a dragon, and he's brutal. Like absolutely brutal on his way through the continent. Like they talk about all of the towns that they get through and just find all of these like bodies and crucified people. Like it's horrible. Yeah. Which I guess, like, I could tell he was a bad guy. He just seemed like but he also, in the last book, just very much felt like a kind of crotchety old guy who wanted things to stay the same. I was not expecting him to be, like, a hyper-violent man trying to rule the world. I was not ready for that. But because that very much was it, it was obvious that that was going to be what we were doing. We were definitely going towards battle. Because Rand is not trying to let that happen. And absolutely this guy is, like, wreaking havoc on the continent. He's just destroying things, and he's the worst. And so I knew that was coming. I very much was like, cool, we're going to have a battle, and, then everyone's going to get set up in their places, and then the book will end. No. There's a battle that I had to read multiple times to figure out what was going on, because I was very confused. Matt kills Couladin. Matt also, circle back. Matt, this whole time, has been like, what does he call Rand Bloody Dragon Althor?
Yeah.
Like multiple times.
Bloody Dragon Althor.
Rand Bloody Dragon Althor. So annoyed. But like I find him so interesting because obviously loves his home and loves his friends. Like really cares for his friends. But his inner monologue and outer monologue is like, ugh, I guess I have to take care of you.
Because everyone has that friend where they're like, this person will always show up for me no matter what, but they will complain the whole time.
So that is Matt to a T.
Yeah, it's great.
I did find it interesting because he's also, side note, Matt is always trying to get women to sleep with him. Of course.
It's great. Why doesn't she want to sleep with me?
He always talks about, like, trying to get them to dance. That's like, he's like, just want to have a dance with her. Just want to have a dance. And then is literally always trying to get people to sleep with him. And I can't remember if it was this book or the end of the last book where, like, the woman who is with the peddler that is a dark friend that meets the Aiel that is with Osmodian. I forget her name.
Okay. I do not know.
Anyways, he literally spends, like, the whole time of being like, I'm literally giving her my best stuff, and she's not taking it. Like, I don't understand.
This is my best material, I don't know.
She should literally want to sleep with me. Like, so frustrated. He's like, I'm giving her everything I've got. Usually works. Didn't work. But he does end up having a little relationship with one of the Aiel, which is also very funny because Matt is very much... I would think a lot of maybe women would think he's a stereotypical guy of like he wants it and then he doesn't want it. Yeah. It's like he wants to get it and then he's like
stay very far away from me, please. Yes.
Which then seeing him in juxtaposition with like an Aiel woman who is really great because there is a little bit of like I'm in charge from her standpoint, which is very funny for Matt, but then it is still a little bit too much for him, a little bit too much like clinginess, but not in the like annoying stereotypical like over possessive
okay. I was like, I'm sorry,
nature.
I don't know what
no, it's not that.
for.
But I will say, and they're like joking about how they're gonna make him sing, which like is their way for saying like he has to like really try.
Yes.
They have to. She wants to make him really, really try, but she doesn't actually care. She just wants to do it because she thinks it's funny, kind of. Mm-hmm. Like she doesn't want to marry him, but she wants to make him sing for her, which is like she really wants to make him work for it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really funny. There's a lot of the things about the Aiel women that I find fascinating and really intriguing, and then other ones that are brutal. Like the way that they treat it, her name is Essendra is the one that Matt is trying to sleep with. He's like, I don't understand, I'm giving her all my best stuff and she's not taking it. And she also like, because she comes with the peddler that the Aiel kind of like take in with them, and that's where Asmodean is. That's how Rand meets Asmodean, who's pretending he's Natael Gleeman. And Essendra is like very much, they describe her over and over again of like, kind of like loosey-goosey, like always kind of showing a little boob, like being a little flirty with all the boys, but also apparently steals from the Aiel at the end, and I don't remember that bit, but then we come into this book, and she, of course, is nude, and the Aiel women make her wear only the jewels that she stole, that's like, she doesn't ever get to wear clothes. Classic. But, which is brutal. And then also there's another point where because we find out she's a dark friend, because, what's the guy's name? Kadir, who's the peddler, is a dark friend. She is also a dark friend. We find this out. And so it's always trying to kind of like cozy up to Rand, but you can feel, it's very like sad, because she's obviously like in this very vulnerable state with these people who are being really intense with her punishment. And they find that she, like, kind of goes to Rand, and the women, the description of what they do to her, like, how they, like, beat her is awful. I was like, whoa, ladies. Like...
The Aiel do not mess around.
Wow. Yeah. It was intense. And I was very much of like, there's, like, some things about, specifically the Aiel women, that I'm like, cool, like, the spears and the stuff, and I'm like, okay... That's too much. That's a little too much for me. It's intense. We don't get a lot of Egwene. We get Egwene like by proxy in this. We don't get a lot of Egwene, too much Egwene POV beyond like her in Tel'aran'rhiod with meeting with the ladies and like telephoning. Though we do, I guess I take that back. We do see her because she has discovered that she really is a dream walker. She can like walk through the dreams without any sort of assistance. So she doesn't need the ring or the Angreal that the other women do to get into the Tel'aran'rhiod. And she can also there's this really cool description of, they'll have the meeting and the wise ones, the Aiel wise ones are training her, and they tell her she cannot come without them. Like, they have to go with her. And so she's like, yeah, for sure, of course. And then as soon as they leave their little meeting place, she like, the description was really cool. Essentially, like, it almost was like her falling into blackness, but then looking at all of these, what seemed like stars around her, and her, how she has realized that those are windows into people's dreams, and she basically can choose wherever she wants to go. And I do find that fascinating and really cool, and I love seeing Egwene really step into her power, and you see her do that with the way she stands up to Nynaeve. And it is funny, we get a little bit in Egwene's head when she kind of comes to a head with Nynaeve about certain things that they're doing, and she's like, did that work? That really worked? Damn. Like, it's pretty, which is pretty fun. But yeah, we don't get too much of her until the end. Her, and I wrote, Egwene and Aviendha battle tag team. Awesome. Because there's a point before the battle with the Shido that Rand is essentially trying to send classic man, being like, I gotta protect them, I'll send them away, when he's with a bunch of warrior women. Like, come on.
Rand is very traditional. He doesn't like women getting hurt.
And he doesn't like hurting women either.
Yes.
He talks about that, how he cost Moraine her life because he didn't feel like he could kill Lanfear.
He's gonna balefire everyone else.
Oh boy, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But they, the women come to, because I forget if he's trying to send, he's like, Egwene, got this really important job for you. And, like, is trying to send her to Tarvalon before the battle. And, like, same with the Aiel warrior, the Spear Sisters.
Sure.
Spear, like, women of the Spear. And they, like, come to his tent and are like, no. Full on, it's literally Egwene and Aviendha in the beginning and be like, no.
Crossing their arms, under their breasts. Nope.
Classic. Nope. But it is interesting. They make a very good point. They're like, we have the power. 3 of us could end this battle so much quicker than anything else. And then we kind of get flashes of how Aviendha and Egwene are using lightning in this battle, and like they're like tag teaming, like one's resting and the other's not, and Rand's like, I wish I had a buddy. Like literally,
I'm just tired.
I'm just a tired guy. I loved that. I thought that dynamic was really cool.
Yeah.
I love Egwene and Aviendha's relationship, and I also really love, we got a lot of Rand with Egwene and Nynaeve in this beautiful, powerful, like sisterly almost relationship. We get him and Egwene have a few conversations that are, which is also kind of lovely to see, rather than there being this like weird thing between them, because they've basically spent their whole lives thinking they were going to marry one another, and they're both very much like, I care about you a lot. And we get that with Nynaeve as well, because in the last battle, she essentially helps him finish off Ravine from the Dream World, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which I guess we should just go back and get to the last battle. So there's the battle at the Aiel. They win. It is very interesting. They win.
They win.
The good guys win. I find the battle so hard to understand. This has happened multiple times, and maybe I'm missing things. Maybe I'm not understanding the way that he writes, but it seems that Rand blacks out at the end of these battles quite often. Like it's like he's like, and something happened, and then he's like, we won? We won? I thought everyone was dying. And I was confused.
To be fair, in this book, 3 of his friends did die.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the battle prior to that with the Shido. It's very much like there's this, it almost seems like he like blacks out and then comes to again and finds out that they have...
I think he might just be like using a narrative device in which people are like, wait, it's over? Like shell shock as opposed to like actually blacking out.
Well, because I also like wondered, like I was reading it and this happened in another, I don't remember exactly, but I know this, like I've had this feeling before in prior books, specifically with Rand in fights, where I was waiting for people to tell him what happened and they don't. And I'm like, everything good? But then I also did realize that this was not going to be the end of the book. I was kind of waiting for it being like, I needed to know more, I needed closure, I figured this was going to move Rand on to the next. But after they win the battle, they get a letter that Morgase is dead, and Rand is like, vengeance for Elaine! Yeah. And so marches his little
Make me feel less bad about sleeping with her friend.
Truly. Whereas Aviendha's like, we'll deal with our things, it's whatever. She's the best. I love her so much. Sex positive, all the things. Wonderful lady. So he marches himself down
just like that.
It literally marches himself over to the palace. Actually, he doesn't. He has learned how to create a portal, essentially, which is very interesting, but also crazy dangerous. Matt, of course, is like, I hate this. Yeah. That's like, this is the worst. This sucks. Rand, what are we doing? Why are we here? I don't understand.
Pretty dangerous.
Well, because someone like falls off of the ledge that he creates, and he's like, they're just falling into darkness.
They're
so
just
sorry.
dead now. Sorry.
They're just dead. Great. And so, of course, Rand marches on over. Nynaeve, whilst she's in this sequence, I thought was phenomenal. Yeah, like the ending battle was so interesting because we're with Nynaeve and Moghedien in the dream world, and then we're with Rand and the rest of the peeps in the real world. Yeah. And Nynaeve is finding out in real time from Moghedien because she traps her with an Adam, I don't know. In the dream world, which I think is brilliant. Brilliant work, Nynaeve. Great work.
Because, I mean, she thought she killed her last time, but
she's like, nailed it. Obviously not. And through that, she's finding out in real time that Ravine has set a trap. So if anyone were to channel within
whatever, they will die.
A limit of the city, he would fight them. And so we get there, and this is another part. I had to read this at least 3 to 4 times because I was so confused. I was like, I must be missing something.
They couldn't possibly have killed Matt, Aviendha, and like who was the other one? I don't remember. There's someone else I think too. Yeah. But anyway, Matt and Aviendha died and like immediately.
And literally, there's a description of Matt smoking boots. Yep. Like he's just a pile of smoking boots. Mm-hmm. Woof.
Just nukes him.
I think because I was listening to it, I somehow was just like, oh yeah, okay, they're like down, not dead, not at all dead. And then I read through it, and Rand's like, they were all dead. And I was like, excuse me, what? But also, okay, number one thing about Rand I learned in this book. You tell him something's dangerous, he doesn't care. Literally, Moraine is like, don't ever use balefire. It sets the time back. It's so bad. It's like, don't do it.
Fair,
and
that
throughout
was
this book,
foreshadowing.
no, but also like, what is it foreshadowing of?
The end of the book where he uses it to bring his friends back to life.
No, for sure. But like, it also like, literally from that moment, I want to say like a chapter later, he's like, balefire. Like literally, and it like truly his attitude with it is like, had to be done.
Pew, pew,
This is
pew.
literally, he's literally like, pew, 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 balefire, 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 balefire. Which I get it, it's probably his most dangerous weapon, and since he can use it, great. But it's like, we get that from Moraine, or maybe it was the end of the last book even, that he discovers he can use it. And she's like, don't ever do that. Literally, you can like unweave the pattern.
Yes.
Because it will take a person out.
It takes them out of the pattern.
Of the pattern entirely. So anyone they've affected, it can affect so many things. And truly, I want to say, it's like 2 to 3 chapters later. I don't know if it's like Lanfear or what, but he's literally like, I read it multiple times because I was like, is he just like balefiring like throughout the hall, like just tossing it? Yeah, correct. He is. And in this last chapter, I do understand why
honestly,
he
it's brilliant
thinks
that
to
he
use
uses it here.
It is brilliant that he uses it here, and it took me a minute to understand that he had a reason specifically for using balefire beyond it just being dangerous to this, like, to hurt the person that he's after. It was pretty brilliant, and it was, I think this was the first time in one of these books that I read it, and I was like,
all right, Rand. All right.
All right. And like the storytelling of it, the like trap that was set for a reader, essentially, of like, this is going to pay off. I was not expecting that, and I was not expecting the detail, and it was such an interesting last battle to see him use so much of the power and how much of a hold he's gotten on it since working with Osmodian, and I think working on his own. I will say, the one thing I'm really missing in these books, not the one thing, one of the things, is I want a training montage. I've never gotten a training montage. Sure. I really want a training montage, specifically because like we saw Rand open this portal, and I was like, he knows how to do that? Yeah. I was like, I would love a training montage. Even, and I had said that in early on with him and Lan, how Lan is like teaching them all of the sword forms. I was like, training montage, let's go. But we didn't get that. Anyways, it was cool to see him, like, the control he's learned over the power in the past, specifically come into this battle where he's like making all of these like portals for himself to get to Ravine, and how he gets in, and then essentially Ravine has like kind of invited him to the dream world. He like sees the portal, he's like, it looks kind of weird going in, and gotta do it. And goes in and, you know, is battling back and forth with literally so much balefire. It's not even funny.
Well, I mean, he knew what he was going for.
At this point, he did, which I didn't. So I think that was, I was like, dude, relax with the balefire already. My gosh. And truly, like, there are multiple, like, passages in which he's like, had to do it. It was the only option. I know it's dangerous, but like,
But what can you do?
What can you do?
I'm the dragon.
I am Rand, Bloody Dragon Elthor. And it was, I loved that last sequence too, especially because it's happening in both of the worlds, where Nynaeve is in the dream world as well, like with her spirit, and then Rand is actually in the dream world physically.
With his physical body,
and so is Ravine, we find out.
Much more dangerous.
So dangerous, and I thought it was so awesome to see Nynaeve, and she even says this, and Brigitte says this to her too, being like, you're being really brave, dude. Like, you know, because her first reaction when Moghedien tells her it's a trap and Rand is there, she's like, I literally have to go save him. I have to. I have no option. She's like, it's so dangerous. And she's like, shut up. literally dragging her like a dog along with her. And the way that they help each other without knowing that they're helping each other is really awesome, because Rand is balefiring, and Nynaeve comes upon Ravine and like wraps him in fire, and then we like go back to Rand's POV, and Nynaeve is very much like, cool, I'm gonna die. Like, in this moment, I'm gonna die. And then we flip back to the chapter where it's Rand, and he's like, oh, there was fire in that window. Probably should shoot it. And classic, more balefire. And realizes that they have finally done it. They have actually killed the Forsaken. And I loved the conversation between the two of them. It was so lovely. I had written down, like, I said that about Egwene as well, of like him getting that time with Nynaeve, of them both you see like a familial bond,
Sure.
like a chosen family bond, essentially, between the two of them. And I thought that was so heartwarming and so nice because we've really never gotten that between Rand and Nynaeve.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But they're obviously connected, and it was awesome for multiple ways. The fact that they tag teamed this last battle, and also the fact that they had that moment with each other. Rand has a quote at the end. No, this is Matt. So sorry. I haven't talked about Matt a lot, and I enjoyed Matt in this book. Matt is very much a disgruntled friend.
Yeah,
and truly, I love the moment where he's like, Rand is like, I let Perrin go, so I'll let you go too. I know you really want to go. Because literally every time we're in Matt, he's like, I'm gotta get out of here all the time. And he's like, okay, like right before the battle. And then as he's leaving, he's like, guess I gotta go save my friends.
Yep.
Like, guess I gotta go be good at battle, because he's got all these memories of how to be a warrior and things, and classic Matt. And truly is just like, guess I gotta kill Couladin. Like, guess I gotta do it at all times. He had a quote at the end, and he said something like, women were generally glad when he came into their lives. It's like, okay, Matt.
Confidence.
The pure confidence. The pure confidence. What else? I guess we could talk about the very end where Rand, I found it, Rand kind of, they assume Rand is going to take control after he gets rid of Ravine. And he's like, absolutely not. No. Elaine is coming in. She's obviously the heir.
Yes, he basically
like laughs in their face.
To Elaine. He's like, here, give it to her.
Truly. But
I've conquered this kingdom.
In that moment, when he has that bit of power, he gives men who can channel amnesty. And I think that was really interesting because he obviously has found a way to make it comfortable. And he brings up a good point where he's like, the last battle is coming and we're going to need whatever we've got. To make this happen. So all y'all need to put your prejudices aside and let's try and make this work. Yeah. I was like, all right, Rand, good for you, dude.
All right, let's go.
That was great, yeah. So, and then that is the end.
That is the end of the book.
Of The Wheel of Time. I love
Book 5 of The Wheel of Time.
The books that I'm reading, the copies that I'm reading, at the end of every single one literally says like, the end of the 5th book of The Wheel of Time. And I say it in that languaging because it's like this beautiful flowy text and it feels really good. Not enough books say the end on them. It feels very good when I'm like,
yeah,
this
that's
is
true.
the end of the 5th book of The Wheel of Time. Correct. I have done it.
Yeah.
And I did it.
So,
period.
How would you rate this? Well, what would you rate this out of?
What do we got in this one?
The farther along we get in the series, the more it's going to have to be fully based on you as well. Because
you're just like, don't
because I'm just like, I remember the big things, but there are certain bits that are going to escape me.
Maybe we can do the Terangrial ring that they use.
A ring.
Okay,
yeah. I'll just use a ring. We'll use rings.
Yeah, the ring.
Well, and we'll know what ring
it's a
it is.
Terangrial. Or an Angrial. Terangrial? I forget which one is which. Some sort of Angrial.
But, okay, so how many rings out of 5 would you give this?
Struggle rating this one because there was so much I liked about it, especially because I was with mostly just my favorite characters, which I loved. But it felt so slow to me. Like, so slow, and I struggled to understand it. But that's also, like, I feel like it's unfair to rate it that way because it was, like, on me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, no, if you don't...
But generally...
up to you, as always.
Generally, I very much enjoyed the book. I think I would give it a 3.5.
Great. You don't need to apologize.
I know, I
hate
hate rating. I'm just because I'm not confident about it. It's like, to me, if I could rate each bit, like, section of a book, like story, pace, characters, that would make me feel better, because giving it an overall rating is so hard for me because I'm like, but I loved it, but then I also...
You can do that. That was what that compile thing was. You give each category a score and then you take the average and that's the score of the book.
Huh.
It felt like a lot of math to me.
It does feel like a lot.
I've actually started writing my notes kind of along those lines, but I don't actually give everything a number.
I need to do that because rating makes me anxious.
Why?
Because
it's an arbitrary score based on your enjoyment.
That's the problem. Because like I enjoy certain things, and so there's like certain parts that I want to give a high rating, but like overall, I don't. I have a hard time overall rating it.
Yeah, but you're great. You gave it a 3.5, and that's great.
I know. I just don't... I'm like, is that what I want to give it? I don't know. I think.
But you're the only one who can answer that.
And I don't know.
But you did. You gave it a 3.5.
Barely. Whatever.
I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5 rings. I really like this book. Yeah, a lot of stuff that I think is great really happens in it. It starts building some plot lines together in interesting ways, and anytime that characters are paired off in ways that they haven't been before, or at least like haven't been by themselves before, I always enjoy.
Rand and Amanda getting dirty.
Oh yeah, I mean that was great too. Running into the snow, how
into
dramatic.
The snow.
Yeah,
and just keeping
like
the
like an igloo or something.
Yeah,
it's
Rand
very
makes
funny.
a magic igloo.
Yeah, it's very. That's exactly where you want to have your first time.
Yeah.
But yeah, 4.5 out of 5 rings for me, for sure. I feel so confident about this.
I just don't feel confident because you say that. I'm like, well, maybe I was like a 4. I don't know. I can't. I truly like. It's so hard.
I know.
I struggle.
I know, and it's good to do things that challenge us.
Okay.
Well, those are our thoughts on the 5th book of The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan.
Mainly my thoughts. Sorry.
Mostly this. Well, that's the whole point.
That's true.
Let us know in the comments down below how you like this book. We'd love to talk with you about it.
Who's your favorite character?
Yeah, who's your favorite
character?
character?
Do you love Lenny?
Who's your least favorite character?
Ooh. Mine's definitely changed. Because it used to be Rand, and it's not Rand anymore.
I will take that. That is a big win.
Truly.
Absolutely big win.
Thank you, Avienda, for softening that for me.
Like and subscribe to see more of our videos. Thank you all so much for watching, and
we'll see you on our next adventure.